Well, g'day everyone. I thought I'd take you through today how my whole studio is set up for YouTube streaming and recording these type of videos that you're looking at now, and also going directly live and things like that. And I thought I'd take you through all the hardware that I use, plus the software that's available as well, and also some cheaper options as well. I mean, I've gone down it more on the expensive side, but you don't have to do it like that, and I thought I'd show you all about that as well. So let's get started. So what we'll do first, we'll look at the hardware that I use, and then we'll sort of move on from there. Now, I'm using 3 cameras today, so I'm using one camera which is up there, which is an A7 III, which will be this one. And I'm using the one that's at the front, which is just over here, which is an A6400 as well. Now, just to show you the sort of camera side of things, what I'm doing here, there's a teleprompter that's on the front of the A6400 here that I use. Now, I've reviewed all these before, so if you go back through my channel, you will be able to see them. But because the teleprompter is sitting on the front here, I can't see the screen of the A6400. I'm using a 16mm Sigma lens on the front of that as well at the moment. That sort of keeps me in great focus. So to see things that are going on and include checking focus and exposure, I'm using a Field World monitor here. This is the 4K Ultra Bright that I've also reviewed before as well. That's great because I've got waveforms showing, so I can see how my exposure is as well. Now, these are all put sort of clamped together using Manfrotto clamps, these big clamps that you can buy, and I'll sort of show these as I'm talking, so you'll be able to see how this is all working from the back, because it's pretty intricate if you look how it's all going. And then all the HDMI leads feed down to here. So what they're doing is they're going straight down to the ATM Mini here that I've got, and you can see that there. Now, I'm using the ATM Mini. It's not the ATM Mini Pro or even the ATM Mini Pro ISO, I think it's called, is the new version. All I really need is something to switch. So, you know, I'm really only interested in just clicking on these buttons and then switching to whatever I need like that. So really all I'm using is the 4 cameras that I've got through here. They're fed in directly at the back. I'm not using any of the audio, the picture-in-picture features of this, or anything. The only thing I do use is the cuts, the fades, which I can use here, and basically the cameras as well. So that's really all I'm using from the ATM Mini itself. So I don't need anything better than that. I think this works fantastic for me. The other thing too that I've got connected into here, which works with the software that I use, is it's called an AKAI. It's an AK, I think, or AKI. It's an APC Mini. Now, this lets me change camera angles, and that's set up through the software that I'm using that you can see through here as well. I can sort of switch to whatever I need to switch through there at the same time. So that works really well, and that's just by pressing on each of these buttons. You can see they light up. The red shows me what's on at the moment, the same as which camera angle is on. This is which scene is shown through the software that I'm using, and these lights will relate to what I've got set up in that software that I'll show you a little bit later on. With the audio side of things, I'm using a Rode, and I'm using the Rodecaster Pro here. I love this thing. This is absolutely fantastic. So you can have 4 microphones connected into this, as well as 4 independent headphone jacks, as well as put it up to studio monitors as well. And then you have audio that you can play through these as well, which I do use occasionally when Sony do something bad. I laugh every time I put that on. So that's what that is. I can bring in a mobile phone if I want to, or a Bluetooth device through here, and also capture all the audio that you look at through here as well. Like what happens is when I switch to this intro, which I'll switch to from here, so that would play the second that I click on it, which is great as well. None of the other features work though through the software, like the faders don't work or anything else, or all these controls. All it really is just switching between what's on the panel that is changing these little pictures or boxes that you can see through here, which is my individual channels, and that's how that works. I do have an Apollo Twin that I use when I'm doing audio, when I'm actually writing music or playing music, my guitar and stuff like that, when I write my songs, so I do use that as well. The computer is a Mac Pro. I probably am going to have to update this though. It's the 2013 Mac Pro. It was the highest spec one, and it still does 4K footage really well. But, you know, it's now starting to get a bit old, and I may have to think about upgrading that reasonably soon. But I'm waiting on Apple to bring out their newer ARM-based Macs that I'll probably update to. The lighting that you're seeing at the back through here is through this Soonwell light box. And it's an LED, it's a flexible LED that I have reviewed before as well. But at the front, I've just got a big diffuser that I've put over it. And at the back, it's just the light box with a grid on, because I don't want the grid to sort of move around too much or separate into the room, because I like the ambient lighting as it is. I'm using hue lights around the room that I'm using to sort of give the room a bit of sort of atmosphere and things like that. For the mouse, I'm using, let me just switch this over. For the mouse, I'm just using a Logitech. It's just an MX Master 3. And then I'm using a Wacom tablet to do all of my retouching and things like that. And I use that nearly all the time. I use the mouse when I'm doing this sort of stuff. Up here is a toolbox that I use for doing editing in Lightroom and also Photoshop and Final Cut. And there's also a Shuttle Pro that I use down here as well that I use to edit when I'm doing Final Cut things as well. And obviously just the keyboard. The monitors that I'm looking at here is just an LG widescreen monitor that I use here, which is a really nice widescreen display. I love that because it lets me use Final Cut and take it over the whole page, and even Lightroom, you know, I can really use it wide. On this side, I'm just using an Apple monitor. I think it's a 24-inch Apple monitor here as well. So that's the setup that you can sort of see on my desk. Now, the microphone that I'm using is just a Rode pod mic, and I love this, and it's just connected by a Rode, I think they're just a mic arm or something like that it's connected to. You'll see that as I'm talking. So that's what that is. The camera that's to my left is just on a big Miller tripod. And it's just on a slider up the top. I love the Miller because they're so large going up there, which is fantastic as well. So I can use that. I really only keep that in when I'm doing this sort of stuff, showing the bench wide. Usually if I just need to show something small, I'll just use a camera attached to this side. That's what this HDMI cable is for here. So that's what I use that for. Now, you don't have to go this far. Oh, by the way, too, I've also got a microphone up the top here, which is a Sennheiser. I think it's the MKE 600 that I use as well. So for general work, I use the pod mic. And what I mean by that is what I'm doing now, because I haven't got anything in front of me. But if I'm demoing something in front of me, I'll use the Sennheiser mic. And I'll show you how that works. So at the moment, you'll see here it's red, so it's turned off. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this mic off. This is this one. So I'll press the red there. And now what you're listening to is this mic above here. Now, this would be pulled down, but at the moment, like I said, I've got the light attached to it, so I won't move it. But that's now through the Sennheiser mic that's sort of just out of camera. I usually move that down just so it's just above where my camera shows, so it'll be closer to me, and then I can work from that way. So what I've done is I've switched back to this mic now. So that's that setup. I don't think there's anything else. The desk that I'm using is a stand desk, so I can move this up and down with controls on the side through here, just down to this side here. There's two buttons for going up and down and turning the power off and on, so I can stand up while I'm using this. I've got a Belkin system that is for USB over here, and I've got another, it's an Elgato one over here as well. And then I've just got a USB drive as well that is for connecting my cards and things like that from my cameras into the system. So that's how it works. So I've got a dual setup that you're looking at through here as well. Okay, so let's look to now, I thought I'd show you some sort of more simple solutions that I used to use actually that you can do if you don't want to spend so much money. So we'll look at that now. So the audio that I used to use was a Zoom, and this was where I first started out with recording, and you can connect XLR microphones through here as well, or if you wanted to use just your normal microphones, I had a connector that plugged in that you had like the iPhone connectors in there, and then you've got multiple buttons that you can use. And the headphone out just went from here, from the headphone out socket into my output on the computer, and then I could get audio in. So I could do it that way if you don't want to work that way. So that's one solution that you've got. You could use these inbuilt microphones if you wanted to, but I used the Sennheiser actually. But there are other ways too that you could go. You could use direct microphones. Like you could, if you wanted to, say, use a Rode like this microphone here, or you could even use one of the Rode Micros if you wanted to use that too, and just have that attached to the camera if you wanted to, or just off the camera. So as long as you can't see these, this would work as well. If you wanted to work this way cheaper, you could sort of get this, which is this one here is a Zoom. Now this was the H1. This was great as well, and you just use the line out to connect into your system, and you can get sound or audio from that as well if you wanted to go that way. So that's a cheaper solution. Another solution that you could go through as well if you wanted to was something like this Zoom F1 as well, and that's another solution that you could go through to get audio into your system too if you wanted to do it much cheaper. Or you could just use something like your Rode Wireless Go's as well if you wanted to use something like that instead of having a mic hooked up the other way and just have it on inside, you know, on your shirt or something like that if you wanted to work that way. Another cheap solution for a camera, if you haven't got multiple cameras like I've got, you can just use something like a GoPro or something like that. Or this is the Osmo Action. So that's another solution if you wanted to get a separate angle or something like that too. So there are multiple solutions that you can go to if you haven't got multiple cameras like what I have. So that's the hardware that I used. So what I thought I'd do now is I thought I'd show you the software that I used, or other hardware that you can use to stream in. So let's look first at the moment I'm using the ATM Mini, and that's connect through Wirecast. So that's the way that I'm streaming at the moment. But I thought I'd show you some other ways of getting into your system. So let me just switch over to this and I'll show you some other ways. So this is a cheap way if you wanted to do, if you had a Sony camera, something like the ZV-1 or, you know, all the Alpha cameras that are out there. Sony have just announced this new Image Edge webcam app that you can use. So you can use this to directly stream using USB-C into your computer and then streaming directly from that. So that's a cheap way of going, because at the moment I'm using my ATM Mini to go into the computer, and that's actually connect to a Elgato Cam Link that I'll show you in a minute. And I've done that because I've found the quality is better than going directly out from the ATM Mini that you can do. Using USB-C. So what you can do is you could stream this way if you wanted to, and that's one great solution. That's just been announced. Now, I know all other camera manufacturers have this as well. So if you're Canon, there's one. If you're Olympus, Nikon, all other ones are now releasing these new camera streaming apps, which is great. Another solution, which is what I use, is this Cam Link. And that's this system here. I've got two of these 4K ones that I use as well. So this is a great solution for getting the camera in. And now you just plug in your HDMI cable into here, into this point over here. Then that just plugs into your computer, and then that will give you the ability to get to stream. So that's one solution that you can use. This is another one that I use. Now, some of these are more high-ended, obviously. This is Blackmagic, and they have real high-end solutions. But one of the cheaper solutions down the bottom is what I also have. It's this one here, the Ultra Studio Recorder. They're also a great option too if you'd like to use Firewire or something like that to go into your system. I think this is HDMI. The one I had was the previous version, which uses the Firewire, which was a nice source or to go in. You can also get SDI inputs too that you can connect if you're using SDI type monitors as well. So that's another solution that you can go to. So there's multiple ways. The thing that you've got to understand is you just can't use your camera without having some way to interface face it. Luckily, like I said, the manufacturers now are bringing out all of this new software that lets you connect just from your camera, and the manufacturers are giving you that free, and you're just using your USB-C lead. I've sort of found that looking at it though, that the results you get aren't quite as good as if you're using a dedicated device, but you'd have to test that yourself to see if you're happy with how that looks. So that's the hardware side of things. But what about software? Well, there's some cheap options and there's also some more expensive options. So let me show you the cheapest one. Now, this is the software that I use with Aaron. Okay, so this is called StreamYard. And like I said, this is the one I use with Aaron. Now, we use the free version, and basically it's exactly the same. There's a couple of differences between getting the paid version and the free version. The free version, you can only output to 720p. The paid version, you can do 1080p. The other thing too is I can only have 2 guests, or myself and a guest. The paid version has, I think, unlimited guests. So that's the difference. Now, because I'm just doing the live stream with Aaron, I found the free version is great. And this gives you great options of being able to put comments on and things like that. And it's just such an easy platform to use. And like I said, it's completely free. So that's what I use when we're working with Aaron. We tried other things, which was like using Skype and other things, but we just kept having issues. The beauty with StreamYard is everything's built in, and we've found that there's no issues. We don't have sort of audio problems and things like that. You can share the screen and do multiple things with it. So it's a great system, and like I said, it's completely free. I'm not sponsored by any of these people either, by the way. Another bit of software that's out there too is Ecamm. Now, Ecamm, I bought Ecamm a while ago, so I now am what they call grandfathered in. So updates I just get for free. I believe if you're just starting now, you have to buy it as a subscription type base. But Ecamm is quite a nice software. I don't mind using it, actually. I quite like it, and sometimes I use it when I go online. It has the benefit of being able to show comments and things like that, and it is much more powerful than what you would just get out of StreamYard, but it is more complex than what you're using in StreamYard. But Ecamm tends to be nice. But like I said, it is a paid service, but I'm sure if you log online, you'll be able to see what the service actually costs you. So the program that I use is called Wirecast. Now, it's probably the most expensive out of these, and there's 2 versions of this. There's Wirecast Studio and Wirecast Pro. I've got Wirecast Pro, and this is US dollars, so it's not cheap. It's $5.99 US for Wirecast Studio, and it's $7.99 for Wirecast Pro. But I love this software. So let me just drag it over and I'll just show you how the software looks. Okay, so this is the software itself, and this is how it looks. You can see that you have your individual sort of cameras that can just be clicked up, what they call them, cameras or scenes. You know, like if I click onto here, and I'm going to use the pad down the bottom, I'll show you here. So if I click on this one, you'll see that that's me coming up. So what I do is all I have to do is I can click on the bottom ones through here, and then that will give me that camera feed that you actually see through here. You can see your audio through here. You have multiple controls about this, about scaling and everything. Look, once you get into this, it's a very, very easy program, but incredibly powerful, because all of the titles, scenes, and everything that's built into this is marvelous, and you connect directly through YouTube through this actual software, and I love this software. It really is my favorite. You can have any unlimited number of camera angles or scenes or whatever else you wanted to share, desktops, things like that. They're just called layers, and your titling comes through here and everything as well. You can cut transitions, and everything else is all charged through here, or all done through here as well. I really like it. You can crop, change color, drop shadows, everything through this, rotate your images and everything else. But like I said, it's not cheap, but it's really nice in how it works. And like I said, I've got Ecamm that I paid for, but I always tend to use Wirecast for my solutions. So it really just depends on what you want to do. I mean, if you're starting out, I'd probably recommend StreamYard because it's free. You don't have to pay anything for that. Or then if you wanted to then move up, you could buy Ecamm. And then if you wanted to really move up and do more high-end editing of that type of work, you could use something like Wirecast. they're really good. Once you've paid for that, then you only have to pay a yearly subscription for upgrades. So it's not permanently upgrade. You do have to pay through Wirecast a yearly fee. I think it's $150 as well, that they then will upgrade Wirecast each year as well to the newest versions that are coming out, because they do major upgrades. So I don't mind paying that once I've done it. But like I said, it's an expensive option if you wanted to go that way. Personally, if I was starting, I would start with StreamYard. Then I would probably have a look at Ecamm to see if that meets your need. If you really wanted to jump in and do really high-ended type stuff, you could obviously use something like Wirecast, which really you can then start to go out and do church overseas. Apparently, like they broadcast live church ceremonies, things like that, or go broadcast live sports, all these sort of things, which it is very high-ended, featured for that type of thing, and it's great. There's unbelievable green screens and everything that are all built into that unit as well. So that's about it, really. Let me know what you think. Really curious to know if you have any questions. Leave those down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Hope you've enjoyed this, and at least it gives you an idea now about what I use. And apart from that, guys, I'll see you all in the next video. Bye for now.